Good evening, race fans. Welcome to the Hoobazoo Radio Network and welcome to the Drafting the Circuits program. My name is Frank Santoroski. I'll be your host for the next hour as we talk about this past week race and we preview the 4th of July weekend where we've got a lot of racing on deck nationally and internationally to talk about. So joining me in the studio, Richard Youden and Louise Torres. Fellas, how we doing?
Good, thank you.
Not too bad, honestly. Just slowly but surely getting my foot together to get this photo business launched.
All right, so let's Richard, I know that you are taking some time out of a busy day. You're packing your bags. You're getting ready to head over to the pond for the UK. We'll probably let you go halfway through the show so you can get to packing the bags, so your wife doesn't have to. Wife doesn't have to do all the work, right? So, so you're heading to the UK this weekend. Formula One is in Silverstone, which you're at home Grand Prix. You've been there a number of times, both as a spectator and as a as a member of a Formula One team. So, let's talk about Silverstone is one of the great old events on the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a British Grand Prix as long as we've had the modern championship and even longer. Lewis Hamilton has ruled that thing lately, with a few exceptions. He's obviously the hometown favorite. But you figure his teammate at Mercedes right now, also a Brit who's got to be favored as well. And he's good old George Russell's having a pretty consistent season, although they've not been contending for wins. So is perhaps Silverstone a place where Mercedes can change their fortunes, or should we just hope for a podium?
Well, I think, Nigel Mansell used to say that the British fans were worth, half a second a lap or something. Now, I don't think it's quite on that level, but certainly the support that Lewis gets is on the same level that, Max gets when they race in Holland and, Alonso gets in Spain and Seb gets in Germany and the Ferrari drivers get in Italy, irrelevant of their nationality. So I think it's certainly a huge, motivating factor for them. But also to the same extent, it's a motivating factor for guys like Max and Charles to beat them, on the home turf, and also with so many of the teams being based in the UK. Aston Martin is in Silverstone. They literally where the old Abbey chicane was and the Abbey and the bridge curve. If you turn left at bridge rather than right, you'd be in the Aston Martin factory across the road there. So, and you've got obviously Mercedes are in Brackley, 15 miles down the road, and
McLaren's there.
McLaren's a little bit further south. Red Bull are in Milton Keynes, which is probably another 15 miles east of Silverstone, so maybe a little bit further. But a lot of teams in the area. So a lot of the fans, a lot of friends, family, people who are very invested in the sport will be there. So it's always a great occasion from that extent. And as you mentioned, it's a classic old school circuit. I mean, my grandmother during the Second World War was actually evacuated to that part of the country, only a few miles from Silverstone. And she still remembers these times when she would just walk through the fields and climb over some hay bales and be sat on the edge of the track watching the old sort of BRMs and cars like that drive past back in the sort of late 40s and early 50s. So it's certainly got steeped in history, that event. But it's not just that. A lot of tracks have that. Monaco has that, for example. But Silverstone is something a little bit more. Silverstone is to my mind, a true test of the car. There's 3 or 4 circuits that I'd put in that category, and Suzuka being another one of them, and Spa being another, that really test every facet of the car. You look at those fast sweeping corners, Copse, Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel, they are phenomenal corners to watch, and for the drivers, that section of the track really stands out to them. And if you're ever lucky enough to go there, just standing around the side of the track there, especially in that section of the track, to watch the cars perform at the height of their capabilities. Not just the drivers, but one of my favorite places to watch a Grand Prix car in the world that I've ever been lucky enough to see one is from the spectator stand at the old first corner cops. If you stand there and you're actually a little bit below the track surface, so you can't really see the track. And if you look at the cars coming straight towards you at probably 170 miles an hour, the sudden direction change is breathtaking, and it defies logic. You just cannot imagine how a car can do that at that speed, change direction so fast and maintain balance. If anybody ever gets that opportunity, just stand at that corner for 10 minutes, just watching the cars. Let's say that instantaneous change of direction. And again, because you can't see the track, so you don't know when it's going to happen. It's amazing. And one of the great classic circuits. And it's going to be a great race. Really, especially with these ground effect cars, it could be phenomenal. Allowing the cars to run a little bit closer through Copse, Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel, those sort of corners. In the New Abbey corner and Farm, there's almost high speed chicanes. To see if the cars can follow that little bit closer, it's going to be hopefully phenomenal racing.
And who do we tend to favor on this type of track? Obviously, Red Bull is the favorite wherever they go.
I think so, yeah.
They seem to be banging on all cylinders at every track, and even when they falter a little bit, they seem to have Lady Luck on their side to a certain extent. Like when we have double DNFs out of Ferrari on a day where maybe the Red Bulls were outclassed. So they are.
You look at Baku, you look at Silverstone, you look at places like that. You're quite right. The Ferraris, did have Barcelona, Baku, Monaco, where Ferrari trip up. Red Bull are there to sort of pick up the pieces. And I think in general, over one lap, I think Ferrari, especially Charles Leclerc, does have that pace over one lap. But I think you look at the race performance and the effect over the 40 or 50 laps, whatever it is, at Silverstone this weekend. Red Bull do seem to have that little bit better race pace and can manage the tyres a little bit better. And, they're a little bit kinder on the tyres than Ferrari seem to be. And they seem to have the ability to, put pressure on the Ferrari. Ferraris are still making those little mistakes here and there. So, you don't always have that rear gunner like Red Bull seem to do. Checo's really stepped up this probably the last year, since he won his first race. I think it was in Baku last year, wasn't it? He's really stepped up, and he's now that great foil for Max, and he's there and thereabouts. So that allows Red Bull to force the hand of Ferrari on the strategy calls. So, and Carlos Sainz just isn't quite doing that, and that's what you need to be dominant in that way. So I think it's going to be a fascinating race. But I would give Red Bull the edge, and I think the Mercedes will be. It's going to be interesting. I think the Mercedes will be snapping at the heels a little bit. I think they'll find something. They'll try and pull out the stops for this weekend. Given the drivers obviously in they're also their vicinity to the track. It'll be interesting to see what they can do. But I think they'll be a little bit off the pace, just not quite there, but maybe closer than we've seen them before.
No, it's kind of been the story of their season, just a little bit, just missing a little something, So
I don't think you'll see the issues like you saw in Jeddah at the start of the year and places like that. Obviously the whole porpoising thing and some of the steps they took to prevent that at Montreal obviously created a little bit of a legality question, but it's going to be fascinating to see where we go through this weekend, and then into Austria the following weekend. It's another back-to-back week of racing, so it's we're already 2/3 or a third of the way through the season, so it's getting to the meaty part of the season, really. No more, especially from Ferrari's perspective, no room for trip ups anymore.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Ferrari, they're if they fall any farther behind, you just might as well hand the trophy to Max right now. So, Louise, anything to add about Silverstone this weekend?
Be curious to see how Red Bull do perform, because of course Silverstone was the side where the madness really began a year ago with Lewis Hamilton and Verstappen. Of course, we're probably not going to see that. The question remains, how will Hamilton do? Of course, he's fresh off a podium, but it's how the car is going to behave on him, because there's been that discrepancy that he's been dealing with a lot of pain in his body with that car, that even some people are looking at whether or not if Hamilton should carry on or not, because you always have those erroneous comments all the time from people about Lewis Hamilton. Like Bernie Ecclestone usually says something about how he should not be too stagnant about it. He should be more aggressive, like don't settle and all of that, like the complacency levels. And then there's a story that just came out from last year of three-time world champion Nelson Piquet that is far more erroneous and ridiculous, to the point that makes me wonder how all the multi-time world champions are revered, but nobody acknowledges or even mentions the three-time world champion Nelson Piquet. There's probably stuff like that is why.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and.
Well, I just quickly wanted to go back onto the Hamilton thing and the the comment you made there, Lewis, about the pain that he's encountering. And I think it. Obviously these cars are uncomfortable to drive. I think every driver has made those comments, but I don't think he'd be making the same comments if he was winning the championship or leading or competing every week. I think this is, as Christian Horner said, you would, if you were Toto, or you wanted to try and get some of these regulation changes to help benefit their car's performance, you would be bitching on the radio every race about how uncomfortable and painful it is to drive, and I'm going to lose, I'm going to crash out here, I can't drive the car.
No,
those
for sure.
So I don't know whether it's is it really as bad as they're making it out to be? I don't know. I don't want to obviously say that they're making a meal of it, but I would question that if it's undrivable like they seem to claim it is, or it's dangerous.
Russell would not be getting these top fives all season.
No, exactly. And to turn around and say it's undrivable or it's dangerous. Well, geez, guys, it's Formula One. It's not exactly meant to be, a kid's playground here where you've got, padded, floor if you fall off a slide. If these are Formula One cars, they are dangerous, period.
Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, you could say, Lewis, if this car is so uncomfortable to drive, why don't we just put you in the hospital for the weekend? And,
exactly.
See how it feels like to be at the back of the grid. So, but I think, Mike, to your point, a winning car always feels good. Takes some of the pain away. I think of different situations where guys have worked through some incredible pain with a winning car, and one of the ones that comes to mind is Joseph Newgarden winning at Iowa with a broken wrist. And a couple other ones, even the aforementioned Nelson Piquet. I remember him winning a championship and then collapsing immediately of heat exhaustion and those sort of things. So when the car is good, it's easy to work through that. But when your day is already ruined by having a car that's not up to the level that you feel it should be, everything is a little worse.
Yeah, I remember when you had old, Schumacher, had to drive to not win in Malaysia in his first race back with the broken leg. It was incredible.
Yeah, because of Eddie Irvine being in the title mix.
Yeah, he literally had to not. He had to drive slowly not to win. It was phenomenal. He was on pole by a second or something, wasn't he? But I digress anyway. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, Louise, you did mention Nelson Piquet, and the story you're referring to is it's an interview that was recorded, I believe, back in November, right towards the end of the season, where Piquet
Hamilton and Verstappen.
Yep. So and Piquet had used a racial slur, a Portuguese racial slur to refer to Hamilton. And of course, Piquet is connected to Verstappen in the fact that Piquet's daughter is engaged to Max Verstappen. So
used to be Danny Kvyat, wasn't it? She's got a kid with Danny Kvyat. Yeah, that's going through the whole Red Bull driver lineup there.
Poor Gasly missed out. So now Nelson's under fire, and there's some folks that are defending him, saying that the particular word he used in Brazil can go either way. It can be a slur, but it can also be used as something you call your buddies. But it's no secret that Piquet and Hamilton are not buddies. So I can't imagine that Piquet was using that in that context. But either way, everybody's condemning Nelson now. And to your point, Louise, nobody likes the guy to begin with. I mean, he's not made a lot of friends along the way. I mean,
you could talk to Salazar, and Nigel Mansell.
John Watson just straight up says the guy's an asshole. Nigel butted heads with him often when they were teammates at Williams. So, and again, is another. It's like it's Ecclestone making comments, or Jacques Villeneuve always needs to chime in on current Formula One. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, you haven't been relevant in a while, so this is not the best way to get your name in the news. But
whatever it may be, correct me if I'm wrong, Richard. When Hamilton was in GP2, was it Nelson Jr. also around GP2 at that point too? Was he in the same?
Yeah, there would have been. They will have been in the same era, definitely, as drivers, for sure, as in coming through the junior ranks. But I think Nelson, unfortunately, his card was marked, with the whole Renault,
the whole
debacle in Singapore, wasn't it? But they're certainly of a similar vintage, if you like, about mid 2000s, wasn't it? I'm trying to check. It was Hamilton that won the championship from Piquet in 2006.
Nelson Jr. hadn't made a whole lot of friends along the way either.
Scott.
Wasn't he the guy that during was it either a truck race or an Xfinity race?
Xfinity with Brian Scott at Richmond.
Yeah, kicked the guy in the nuts after the race.
Yeah, the same way his dad did to Salazar.
Yeah. So, but anyway, but to just the whole point of the thing is, again, and Hamilton has a really good point that the mindset needs to change. Where you can't just throw out these slurs when you want to refer to somebody. You know what I mean? You can comment about a guy's driving all day long, or the fact you don't like the guy or his personality, or you'd say he's, but just to throw a racial slur in there, there's no need for it or no sense in it. And again, to those trying to defend Piquet and saying that the slur wasn't meant in that light, I have a hard time believing that, just because of the the aforementioned animosity right there. So but anyway, but that's a minor story in the scheme of things in the racing world, but it's made a little news. So
for sure.
But we did. Yeah, go ahead, Louise.
And also, speaking in light of that, Yuri Vips has been terminated from Red Bull, and not that hours after the Piquet thing kind of blew up, then Red Bull decided to terminate Yuri from his contract completely.
Yeah, that's probably not a surprise. Again, he was not a top performer.
No,
so which made him a whole lot more expendable and or vulnerable. And Kyle Larson being sit down for a year was one thing, but this guy is likely career over. So or he'll end up somewhere else, racing stock cars in Brazil. I don't know. So, but let's talk about NASCAR. NASCAR was at Nashville, all three series, right?
Yep.
And the Nashville Superspeedway, but the funny thing is that they ended up with that race almost by default because they were really looking at going to the Fairgrounds Raceway, but they were not able to put all that together. So now we're in our second year of going to the Nashville Superspeedway, which is an interesting track. It's not quite a mile, and it's concrete. It doesn't have a ton of seating there. I think there's only 35,000 permanent seats there, but they have these temporary grandstands they put up for the Cup weekend. So
that I think they used those temporaries for the street circuit as well, I believe.
They may, they may in fact do that. So, but at the end of the day, at the end of a very, very long day, I want to say the time from green flag to checker was a little right at 7 hours.
Yeah, it was 7 hours.
Lightning strikes and rain delays, and I think we still didn't get the whole race distance in.
No, they got it in. They got all 300 laps in. Just a 3-hour combined total delay of the first one lasting half an hour just for lighting, and then the other one went. No, was it? No, it was about an hour, and then the other one was like about 2 or 3. I've lost track when it comes to reflex. When there's long, I lose track.
I was gonna say. I want to say the lightning one. I think the rule on lightning is if there's a strike within 7 miles of the track, it's a minimum 45-minute delay.
30.
Or okay, but from the last lightning strike.
Yeah, and it's got to run the whole clock down. If another one comes along, they have to reset it back to 30.
Starts again. Right. So. But yeah, I mean, NASCAR's got to be real careful with that because if you recall several years ago, NASCAR was the target of a lawsuit where some fans were, I think there were 9 people injured and one person actually lost their life when there was some lightning at Pocono.
Yep, a decade ago.
Yep. So that was really the impetus for that rule. And yeah, you got to be, to the point, you got all them stainless steel grandstands, which are essentially lightning rods. When you get lightning in the area, even if it's 7 miles away, the good thing to do is get those folks out of those stands. So
yeah, there's a reason there's nothing you can do about it. It's like as soon as there's lightning, you get one yellow lap and then take shelter and all that stuff.
Yeah, and this is not just NASCAR. This is across the board in most sports with large outdoor audiences. They have the same sort of rules. So even though some people were like, "Well, why it's so far away?" Well,
unless you won't want to be.
You don't want to be the guy struck by lightning. So, but at the end of the day, it was Chase Elliott with the win.
Yeah.
Even after a day where the Toyota cars were very dominant, Elliott was right there at the right time, right place to pick up the win. So let's talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, you can thank in a way. No, I'm not going to that route, but let's go to the route I will discuss about. It was a Joe Gibbs dominance, like between Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., and Denny Hamlin. They led a combined total of 250 of 300 laps. 250 of 300. They led all but 50 laps, and out of the 3, Denny Hamlin finished 6th. Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr., because they decided to pit in the final caution after Josh Bilicki blew an engine. They decided to risk it all and go for fresh tires, thinking it's going to work. That did not work too well because you had guys on colder tires not getting off, notably Brad Keselowski, kind of stalwart everything, bunch up the whole field. It's not necessarily just Brad. There were other drivers, but Brad kind of became the focal point, a while I'll discuss very shortly. Busch and Truex, rather than getting fighting for the winner of top 5, they risked something and they completely backfired to where he got non-top 20 results, whereas Hamlin was able to find his way through it okay, but nowhere near a contention for the win. So you got to think that this one will have to be absolutely frustrating for Gibbs to not have the results that they provided on the track, because it was difficult to get through Gibbs that night. Chase Elliott showed up at the right time. He was there. He was ahead and probably en route to victory. Regardless, had the caution not come out for Bilicki blowing the motor. And then with Keselowski, he got in a bad situation because of the older tires. And then there was contact between he and Cole Custer that sent Keselowski to the wall. He tried to bring it to payroll, but couldn't because there were still cars going by. He had a flat tire and pretty much limped the whole way through the final 3 laps. There was no yellow, which Elton Sawyer, one of the competition directors of NASCAR, former Busch Grand National driver back in the day, pretty much implied that it's a judgment call. This one's completely, there's a judgment call, which I can understand because there was no debris, but Keselowski was completely off the pace. Compared to Derek Cope at Daytona in the duels last year, Keselowski kept on the backstretch. You saw on the last lap visibly that he was kind of like at an absolute snail's pace riding through the grass just to get out of harm's way. And once he got out of the way, they felt like NASCAR decided there's no reason to pull the yellow. And of course, because Elliott won, you have people out there yapping as always.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I didn't see the end of the race because it was like 2:00 in the morning or something. But yeah, I did read a lot of comments about the problem was that we didn't throw yellow at the end. We just left Brad out there going way off the pace. Yeah. So yeah, that's again, like to your point, the race director judgment call. But so is that really safe to leave a guy out there? I mean, should Brad have just gone to the pits instead of trying to limp that many laps to the end? Yeah. So, but the world will never know.
He couldn't because there were still cars going by, and so he was on a bind. He could have probably make the hard left turn, but I don't think there's a wall opening where at the end of pit road to do so. And if he did pull it backwards, they probably might have had to wave a yellow because the car's backwards.
Right. So Chase Elliott solidly in the lead for the points, got the most playoff points at the moment.
He's the regular season
2 wins on the season.
Leader.
Yep. So even though it feels like he's been kind of quiet this year, but here he is, quietly kind of in control of the point standings. So
he's got a 30 point lead over Ross Chastain and an additional point over Ryan Blaney for the regular season, which people would say it's the regular season. Who cares? Here's the only reason why, the regular season title is big picture. You get 15 playoff points. Right now, Elliott has 13 playoff points, which is more than anybody else as a result of the win. If he were to get those 15 points, if he wins the regular season championship, doesn't win any stations or win at all, and it gets very seesaw, then he'll get 28 playoff points, which more than likely, depending how guys like Chastain and others win, if they do, he might go in you may go into the round of 16 with a pretty decent points lead. Not a whole lot to start off, but it's bragging rights.
Well, yeah, but if you're ahead of the other guys in points, you're starting to leg up.
Yeah.
So, and the funny thing is that NASCAR they tried to make a deal out of the regular season champion, but nobody really having any of it. Even the drivers, you know what I mean? I remember their first regular season champion was Martin Truex, right? Mm-hmm. And he really didn't seem to be too enthused about winning that because he knew that the work has just begun. It's playoff time. So, and that's literally a bit of a meaningless thing, and none of the drivers have really embraced it. Right? Who was the regular season champion last year?
I think it was Kyle. Well, not 100, and not entirely sure. And that's the thing.
See what I mean? That's the thing. You're not even entirely sure why.
I know Grant Enfinger was in the Truck Series, but that's about I couldn't tell you the year exactly. It might have been 2020 or last year. Who's to say?
Right, and then wasn't Denny Hamlin a regular season champion one year? But again, nobody tracks those stats or.
They do. You just have to look at it and refresh the memory bank.
Yeah, but it's not. NASCAR has failed to make a big deal about awarding a championship for the regular season champion.
It just automatically grants you a berth because I know in the Truck Series last year, I believe, or the year before, one of the last couple of years where there was a situation where there were so many regular season winners to where the championship leader, Grant Enfinger, people were thinking, what if there's 11 different winners and Grant Enfinger takes the regular season championship, would he miss the playoffs because of it? No. The regular season champion is granted no matter what into the postseason, whether you have a win or not. Luckily, in that scenario, it didn't exceed 10 winners, over 10 winners, so end figure was solidly in regardless.
Yeah, it's all interesting stuff. So we are off to Road America next for the Cup Series.
Yep, even though my heart wishes it was at Daytona, but that's a
we're all,
I know,
should be the Firecracker 400, right?
No, I know, but I still stand by Road America. Is not a bad choice for a 4th of July race. It makes more sense you have your longest circuit of the year as your 4th of July weekend event. It's unique in its own. Even though from what I heard from a Wisconsin native said they're not too keen of that idea. I think it's probably because of how it's close within Road America IndyCar. The time
because Road America was there 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, the same weekend.
And there's a lot of Midwesterners too, or people that live kind of in that area and in between, that are not really thrilled that, and these are folks that like all forms of racing, that they have to choose between going to Mid-Ohio to see the IndyCars or going to Road America to see the NASCAR. And I've got some good friends of mine that live up there in Ohio and Indiana and Illinois that are just they've been conflicted because that, number one, is the first time for the Cup cars at Road America, right? But the Indy cars, are probably realistically going to put on a better show. But Road America is also a much cooler track to visit than Mid-Ohio. So yeah, it's like they for that core part of the country that there's so many people enjoy both styles of racing. It's really it's a conflict. Golly, do I want to go to Road America and catch the Cup cars on their debut, or do I want to go to Mid-Ohio where I've gone year after year after year? So but both are going to be pretty exciting to watch this weekend. And we've seen the Xfinity guys put on a pretty darn good show at Road America.
Yeah, and for the most part, as long as you're not the recipient of a Jacques Villeneuve episode back in the day.
Back in the day, yeah. So, but overall, pretty good show, and it's it's exciting for the folks in the area. It's exciting for the local business. Well, not to get a NASCAR Cup date, because Cup tends to gravitate towards larger population centers since they started dinging tracks off the schedule, like Rockingham and Wilkesboro. They've tended to gravitate towards larger population centers. When you figure Road America is kind of in the sticks now, mind you, it's not ridiculously far from Milwaukee, Green Bay, or even Chicago, but it's definitely in a remote area, and it much in the same way Watkins Glen is, but Watkins Glen has some nice proximity to Philadelphia and New York City. But yeah, it'll be fun to watch because again, what driver worth their salt wouldn't like to run a Road America? It's a driver's favorite track, and I'm sure some of these Cup guys that have never driven there are just really chomping at the bit, looking forward to the opportunity.
Yeah, it is. It's there's not much of a circuit out there these days that kind of has like a bit of the old school road racing configuration. As a matter of fact, I don't think it's ever changed as much when you really think about it. I think there was like an aerial map from like 56. If you compare it to today, not much has changed. We've seen so many road courses that kind of look similar or longer. They condense it or they added chicanes for safety purposes. But Road America has steadily stay consistent. You got your high speeds and low speeds. You gotta have to be on it. If you skip a beat, it's gonna be consequential no matter what racing discipline it is. Like what we saw in IndyCar, just to say what will happen in a stock car.
Yeah, I mean you've got a lot of really high speed corners and high speed straightaways, and you've got uphill, downhill, and then just a beautiful idyllic setting So I think that the Cup drivers are going to fall in love with this. Whether or not the Road America fans fall in love with the Cup Series, I don't know. But the Xfinity's done pretty well with attendance out there, so yeah, I don't think I think it's a win-win all around.
Yeah, the big question is this next year, because this is the second straight year the Cup guys are going to Road America, the third race overall. But the question remains after the fact is whether or not we'll see Road America stay on the calendar. That's been the big wild rumor that it could be replaced by the Chicago Street Circuit, or Chicagoland may come back to the fray. In my mind is that why would you want to get rid of Road America? When you look at the other road courses, this one is very unique compared to all the other ones out there, and also adds the unique nature that you have the longest track be a road course. It is almost twice as long as Talladega. But and when it comes to oval miles in length, it's a unique circuit. But like you talked about mark, it seems like they're still trying to reach the ideal marks, like your LA with the Clash, which will be back in 2023 in the Coliseum, and then of course the Chicago Street Circuit as being talked about and heavily rumored. But
yeah, the hot rumor is that Kansas is going to lose a race.
Yeah,
in order for, and it's a little up in the air whether it's Chicago Motor Speedway or Chicago Street Race, because there's a little bit of conflicting information. But the word on the street is that if you're a Kansas ticket holder, that they're only letting you renew your tickets for the one race. That they're only selling tickets for one race next year. So that pretty much tells you the story there that Kansas is just going to be down to one race, which is not a bad thing. For a long time I
think it's fine.
And NASCAR doesn't need to visit certain tracks twice a year. If it's like if the fall Kansas race is similar to what we saw in the spring, it's going to be fine with these cars. I think it'll be fine. I know it'll build specialty to that one. Kind of like how the Coke 600, how people revere it as the greatest NASCAR race in ages or probably ever. Maybe it adds mystique to the 600 more because it's the one time they run the Charlotte Oval. And the Roval, it's this unique thing to where people wonder, should we get rid of the Roval to bring back another oval date or no? And that's another debate for itself. The big thing is have unique identity, unique tracks, and that's what they're going for. And I think a street circuit will feel very weird to me, at least. It's kind of like my little soapbox, like how you poked fun of me about the Volkswagen thing, which was warranted, to be honest. But with street courts, like I can understand. It's just a matter would it work logistically, financially, and also for the community, which I know they'll do their darnest community-wise. It's just when you look at certain venues, you ponder when it comes to street racing. Is it feasible? It's the same argument I have with IndyCar going to downtown again rather than Belle Isle. Yeah, you got to wonder because these street races tend to get caught up in bureaucratic red tape, and then the other thing is the NIMBY mindset where we don't want that event in our backyard. This is the thing that killed the Grand Prix of Boston. It's the thing that killed the IndyCar race in Baltimore. It's the thing that killed the proposed Formula One Grand Prix of New York, which was going to be held over the river in Jersey. The bureaucratic red tape and the permits and the people you need to pay off, whether they be legal or illegal. But yeah, and Chicago is, it's not as easy as going to like IndyCar setting up in Nashville, or Formula One setting up in Miami. Chicago's an old city with a lot of politics in Chicago. And so it'd be interesting to see if they can actually pull it off. And if they pull it off, to see how long they can actually sustain it. So, because people have talked about getting a street race in Chicago, different series for years, and nothing's ever come to fruition. We've had a couple of ovals there. We had the little paper clip in Cicero that was a monumental failure, closing up, within 4 years of opening. and then the Chicago Motor Speedway, which had a nice, decent lifetime, but now it's kind of, it's right now there's no major events there, so its future is in limbo. They may be bringing a race back there, they may not. I don't know. There have been,
I know, if I recall, the drag strip was shut down. That the Route 66 drag strip. I don't know. We'll see how we'll see how it unfolds. I think you also got to ponder the nostalgia, or because the last two Chicagoland races were very memorable for the last few laps. People tend to forget the overall product was inconsistent.
Are you talking the NASCAR races or the
NASCAR races in Chicago? Races, yeah. If we're talking about IndyCar, we could talk about it for hours.
I was going to say the IRL put on some great shows in Chicago. That's this day and age, all that kind of pack racing that we saw during that era, where we had all those really close finishes. That era has come and gone. It's
I'm referring to, since we're still talking about NASCAR, I'm referring to NASCAR.
Right, yeah, but Chicagoland was pretty good. And it's not necessarily in Chicago. It's in Joliet, which is a bit south of Chicago, which is why it's Chicagoland and not Chicago Speedway. But it was much better than the track that Chip Ganassi put in Cicero.
Yeah, that's only known for a few things. Paul Tracy and Dara Franchitti tangling again.
And the movie Driven.
And Kyle Busch almost winning that track when he was 16 years old.
Yes. So
till the fuel ran dry, and that was the last time he was the threat to win a race. And then not that long after, Cart, Marlboro, and Fontana happened to Kyle.
All right. So before we move on and talk about the IndyCar race in Mid-Ohio coming up this weekend, let's really quick tell me who the winners were for Trucks and Xfinity in Nashville.
Yeah. Ryan Preece won back-to-back at Nashville. Those are the only track Preece has won so far in the Truck Series. Did it for David Gilliland Racing. Max Gutierrez got a top 10 in the Austin Wayne Self Truck. He went down to Mexico to run the Mexico Series on Sunday. Xfinity, Justin Allgaier was victorious in Nashville. Not the first time he's did it, to my knowledge, but he just pretty much JRM in general. They have been on a roll in Xfinity. They've been racking up stage wins. They've been getting wins then and there. But the big mystery is, if you could talk about it sort of, then maybe we could see three JRM cars in a championship 4. Time will tell if Sam Mayer will get it together and really step up his game. I know Mayer and Gibbs had another episode where there was some contact, but much tamer this time. So at least there's that. Of course, Chase Elliott won the Cup race. And as far as Road America pick is concerned, Austin Cindric.
You just stole my pick, but I'll let you have it, because Austin's not exactly been on fire the last couple of weeks, and he could really use another win there and make sure he's got enough points to get into the playoffs. Should we have a few more winners? But so since you took Chase, I like
Cindric. I took.
Yeah, you like Cindric.
You said Chase.
Oh, I was thinking about taking Chase because he's been.
Oh, okay. Oh,
but he's not. No. I did say you took. You took Austin Cindric. Shoot.
Chase won last year at Road America.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll stick with Chase because he's again, he's got good momentum coming out of Nashville. He's going to a place that he's won. He's really in a nice place in the points. So why not Chase Elliott? So all right, so let's move on. We've got about 10 minutes left to talk about IndyCars are heading to Mid-Ohio after a couple of weeks off. There were some premature rumors that the Foyt was going to lose a car off of the grid. with
the 11th team.
Rocket, Tatiana Calderon. Evidently, Rocket has not been making all of their sponsor commitment payments on time. But I guess they paid up some, so they will be at Mid-Ohio. But the rest of her season is in a little bit of doubt. Larry Foyt earlier today, as a matter of fact, was doing a Q&A on the AJ Foyt website, and he said that should something more develop from this, they will try to seek additional funding, but at this stage in the year, it's very difficult. But as we look at this thing, right? So Rocket, now they're a pretty cash-rich company, right? The one owner, John Paul, whatever his last name is, he's the guy that owns Patron, the tequila. He's the one partner. And then the other partner, I'm trying to think of that guy's name, but anyway, so Rocket makes consumer cell phones, right? They make a pretty decent 3D phone, but they really haven't, caught on. Like, like when you think about buying a phone, you think about getting you an iPhone or getting you a Samsung Galaxy or something like that. You don't think, hey man, let me get a Rocket phone. So, but they also make energy drinks and gin and vodka as a side hustle, right? They've got their hands in a lot of things.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that Alexis DeJoria is involved as well. I forget what exactly Alexis DeJoria is involved with. In this scenario, this is where Chris or a Seth would correct me at this moment about DeJoria's role. But I know she was involved in something that when she went away for a few years, when she took her sabbatical from drag racing. But the whole thing about Rocket, it makes you wonder why makes you go back to what happened with Williams, because they initially had Rocket in the cars.
Exactly. That's where I was going with that. So Rocket had initially failed to make their sponsor payments to Williams, and Williams ended up suing them. Williams ended up winning that lawsuit and getting a little bit of a $35 million windfall from Rocket. But what I don't understand is, if this is such a cash-rich company, why are the payments not forthcoming? Okay, so the thing with Williams, where they say that Williams had failed something on their end of the bargain, and the judge in the lawsuit felt otherwise. So, but if you look at these kind of things, right, where you have, say, there was Energy, who was sponsoring Brian Herta's team back in 2014, 2015. Same thing with the sponsor payments not coming through. The United Fiber and Data, who were sponsoring James Hinchcliffe with Andretti Autosport. Mm-hmm. Same thing, where we signed up for sponsorship and then never made the payments. So, I kind of wonder how these things happen if these owners of these corporations that decide to sponsor lose interest, or if there's really some that they feel there's a breach of contract that hey, I'm not seeing my guy win every week, I'm not going to pay you. And like some people will say, contracts are made to be broken, but it's just kind of concerning at this point in time that we're looking for 3 cars full time from the Foyt team all year long, and now suddenly one of them is in doubt. So it's just
it is weird that the co-share car of Calderon and Hildebrand is affected. Well, for Kyle Kirkwood, we could be thinking about him, but Kirkwood is going to Andretti next year, so he's going to be.
Yeah, Larry Foyt had said in his little talk today, or the little thing they posted today, that Kirkwood is expected to run the full season because he's not entirely funded by Rocket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now Kirkwood also brings the, his the
scholarship money,
Indy Lights scholarship money. So that's already in Larry and AJ's bank. So he's safe, but Tatiana might be on the outside looking in, unless she can help secure some funding, unless they can kind of patch things up with Rocket. But again, Larry Foyt is saying it's almost kind of a fluid situation that we're working with, and he said it's a difficult situation. So we'll just have to see how that plays out. The funny thing is you've got guys jumping the gun and reporting things that really are only sort of in the know. You get guys like Tony Donahue, who was reporting on Saturday or Sunday that the Foyt, the
Sunday night after Sunday, the Nashville race where I first heard it.
Yeah, he said the 11 car is done for the season, which is, turns out to be not the case. She's there in Mid-Ohio.
Yeah, but we would find out. We would have found out by now. If I really want to put my journalism caliber, I would have reached out to Foyt's PR people and see what's the gist of it. But I got boggled with the other personal stuff that I didn't get the chance to, but I heard nothing through socials for it to hear otherwise.
Yeah, but the long and short of it is that, all the Foyt cars will be on the grid at Mid-Ohio. They're all ready, packed, and heading up that way. So let's talk about the race. So you got Joseph Newgarden on a roll right now.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Scott Dixon, who's pulled Mid-Ohio wins out of thin air time and time again. I think the man has 5 or 6 wins in Mid-Ohio, including one where he started last or dropped all the way to last and last to first.
And also one where he had to fight hard to hold off Felix Rosenqvist.
Yes. Yeah, that's where him and Felix almost got into one another. Yeah.
Yeah, and when he had that nice-looking Clover car, Rosenqvist, which I think he only drove like that race only or twice. It's a nice-looking livery.
Good-looking, yeah, black and green. Yeah, good-looking car. I remember it well. Then you've got, Will Power, who's always dangerous on a road course and been very consistent this year. You've got guys like Pato, who are going to be right there in the mix. You've got Rossi, who is got some really good momentum and dying for a win. So, I mean, this is going to be. Then, of course, Colton Herta, who's when he's on, he's on.
Yeah, we'll see which one will show up.
Which one will show up? But this is the type of circuit that can really favor him. So yeah, it's going to be fun to see. This is literally going to be anybody. I couldn't even if I wanted to say. If I wanted to make my fantasy racing picks before first practice and qualifying, I wouldn't even know where to go with it. So, but if you forced me to say, Frank, pick a winner for Mid-Ohio, I'm going to go with Rossi and say he finally gets that winless streak behind him. He's got his contract negotiations behind him. He's got that off his back. He's run great the last 2 races. He's run great the last 2 races despite not being able to translate it into a win. So Rossi for me.
I'm gonna go with another one that's looking to end their drought. You mentioned him already. I'm gonna go with Scott Dixon. I think he finally ends this. What is it now? Going on 14-month winless streak.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Yeah, it's been a minute.
Since last May at Texas. So
and this is the guy who's. He's the winningest active driver right now. He keeps moving up the list there. I don't know that he'll get to the 67 to take care of AJ Foyt, but my gosh, he is he got the stats to be an all-time great in Mid-Ohio, one of his favorite tracks. So, but yeah, Scott has looked a little milder than he used to, but that competitive fire is still in him. So Scott's a good pick. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be curious because what Joey brought last week is very fascinating, and Dick, it's something to keep an eye on to see how he fares. But I know that chip on the shoulder is got to be there. It's been over a year since he last won. And, of course, Newgarden is the defending Mid-Ohio winner and won in a race that he dominated. So it'd be curious to see how Newgarden will do. But if Dixon capitalizes and makes his claim that he's going to make it difficult for the championship the best way Dixon does, it's going to be an interesting fight for the championship. But if Newgarden were to be dominant again and wins, then Newgarden is going to be tough to beat for the rest of the year.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Newgarden. And another guy you want to probably have a look at would be, boy, I just had his name in my head and it went out of my head. But Pato's going to be good. Ericsson.
Yeah,
Ericsson, who's been solidly consistent. Yeah, I don't know if he'll pull off a win here, right? But another podium for that guy really pads his point lead, right? And this is, again, a track that'll favor Ericsson and his, years of Formula One experience, the nice natural terrain road course. So, and again, the Ganassi team is firing all cylinders, for everybody except for the guy that drives the Carvana one. But
we'll see how Johnson does, because there's also the thing that Johnson may be ovals only next year.
Yeah, that remains to be seen. Yeah, I think he's giving it the old school try. I really don't see him as the type of guy that's going to give up, but again, who knows how long.
It's just a matter of how things go, and especially with Carvana as well, because there's also that underwater scenario with them as well.
Yeah, they had to lay off a bunch of workers and stuff, so they could be decreasing their support, which is imminently possible. But Jimmy's the kind of guy who probably, just based on his name recognition alone, could get somebody in there to go ahead and bankroll his season. But it's got to be, from his point of view, just frustrating to be every road course, to be in the bottom quarter of the field in qualifying, practice, and in the race, So it's got to be really demotivating. But then again, I mean, if he feels better week after week after week, and it feels like he's gonna reach a place where he's gonna be able to contend, or if he just feels like he's going to hit a plateau and just be a mid-pack runner, that's what we need to really think about. But, to his credit, he's starting a new discipline at a rather late age in life, in race car driver years. So, and again, everyone likes to give him crap, but I applaud the guy for giving it the maximum effort that he does.
Yeah, and the drivers see it as well. Like, who was it? Was it Rossi or Ray Hall that said somewhere in the lines that it kind of shows the difficult nature of transitioning from heavy cars to much lighter, which is normally the opposite. The opposite for some of those that are moving to one discipline or the other. They go from a lighter to heavy rather than heavy than light.
Yeah. Well, they say on the oval, it's easier to move from the heavier car to the lighter car, but road course is a different story.
Mm-hmm.
So and I think, Jimmy's still trying to drive that like a NASCAR machine, and he's really not. It's like, reminds me of the line in the cowbell sketch from Saturday Night Live, where we should take that cowbell and explore the studio space. I don't think that Jimmy's exploring all the studio space with this car. So if that's not the most ridiculous thing to end the show on, I don't know what is. But so, Louise, you got a final thought for the night?
It'll be curious to see how Stafford, or briefly mentioned about SRX, it'll be curious how Tony's dad talk with the competitors will go, because as much as Tony was thrilled of winning, he was not happy with the overall product, with all that beef-laced madness that even Mikey was angry about. So we'll see how Stafford goes, because we'll see how it goes. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. So, just to kind of just add some context there. Yeah. So, Tony was really heated after one of the heat races and actually kind of grabbed Ernie Francis by the driver's uniform, shook him a little bit and gave him the finger in the face. But then 10 minutes later, they're slapping each other's back, smiling and laughing. So I wonder how much of that is for television.
But there's also
being how Tony is the owner and promoter of the series, or if that's just Tony's modus operandi, where he gets mad as hell, but then gets over real quick.
We'll see, but he was not happy with the damaged cars, because it's the 6-week series.
Yeah.
So because you have Paul Tracy's car compromised, Michael Waltrip's compromised, Ryan Hunter great as well. So you had
see now Michael Waltrip. I mean, he went out of his way to get back at Ryan Hunter-Reay and tore up both the cars.
Yeah, it's the most angry we've seen Mikey since his battles with Jeff Green in 2005.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just honestly, that's in my mind. Yeah, you can, but that was he just leaned right on Ryan Hunter-Reay all the way around the lap, tore the sides of both cars and tore the front end off of Hunter-Reay's car. Yeah, mind you, Hunter-Reay didn't make any friends, but good Lord. I mean, Waltrip, what are you thinking, right? Other than getting your name on television and then saying, well, I won't be having a beer with him. I'm like, well whatever.
It's like with Marco, Marco had a great run until Biffle got bombed and decided to try to dive bomb Biffle, and that didn't work out too well for Marco. He had the best showing in SRX, in my opinion.
Marco looked really good. Yeah, he didn't have the result to back it up, but yeah, that middle heat race or the beginning,
the main event,
the beginning of the feature. Yeah, he was really good. He was solid. Yeah, I think Marco is, since he's stepped back from full-time Indy,
showed no remorse on Tony, which was really fun to see.
Yeah, but I think Marco was just enjoying himself, enjoying his life so much more. I mean, you could see it in his face that he's got less. Doesn't feel like he has the weight of the world hanging over his shoulders. He's just getting out and having fun. And again, like I say, he won one of these things last year, which was great for him because he hasn't actually, seen a checkered flag since 2011 prior to winning that SRX last year. So I think Marco is really having a blast. Some of these other guys like Michael Waltrip or Paul Tracy, who are kind of, or even Hunter-Reay to a certain extent, who are really kind of languishing in the midfield and getting angry with everybody else, Yeah,
and then Newman is just breath of fresh air energy so far.
Yeah, Newman's having a good time too. Again, he's got that whole weight of the of 40 race NASCAR season off his back. He can just get out, race when he wants to, have a good time, spend time with his children. Yeah, so
and that's the competitive nature in him. His mindset, he wants to be something competitive, and that's kind of. And right now, a couple of them, there aren't any competitive rights to where they can show his worth because the last few years, let's face it, he didn't have the best results. So we'll see. Be curious to see how Newman does going forward because he's currently the SRX championship leader after 2 rounds.
Yes, he is. Yeah. And then, of course, my favorite moment of the SRX was Elio spinning Paul Tracy out of the lead in one of the heat races. And then Tracy making the comment, this guy just loves to steal wins from me. I'm like, oh, my God, give it a rest. Give it a rest, PT. So, we'll end the show on that note there. But, thanks for bringing up the SRX race because I did have a chance to watch that, and I had a lot of fun watching it. And if you folks aren't watching it, I mean, tune on in. It's just fun. You know what I mean? So, but Louise, I want to thank you. I want to thank Richard. Richard, I hope you have a safe trip heading out to the UK. I want to thank Mark Dill and Dan Blay, our sponsors. I want to thank the Hoobazoo Radio Network. I want to thank iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. But certainly I want to thank you folks who listen to us every week. But until next week, good night.
WHOOBAZOO, that's Hoobazoo.com. Enter website.